Welcome to Chatsunami. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Chatsunami. My name's Satsunami and joining me today a couple of days before Christmas, 4 years on, I cannot believe I'm saying that, this year has gone way too fast. It is none other than the one and only, absolutely fantastic voice actor, streamer extraordinaire, Ollie de Vega, aka BlowfishmanTV. Blowfish, welcome back.
Thank you. I remember the longest time you and I were like, yeah, we need to do a podcast episode. And, we put it off for God knows how long, 3 years now at this point. And I'm finally glad to finally be able to do this with you, This is great.
Do you want to guess what year was our last episode?
Together? Are we going to count the JoJo stuff or no?
Oh, yeah. No, the JoJo stuff. Yeah.
I'm going to say 2020 or 2021 latest. Am I right?
Yep, you're right. 2021.
Oh, yep. Okay.
Yep, it was September 4th, 2021, but you actually did, and you were probably the second and, ironically enough, the last person to record a Chatsu Shorts episode where you talked about your voice acting journey, and that was November 12th, 2021.
That's crazy. I do remember recording that for you. That was fun, and I need to listen back to that just to see how much better I've gotten when it comes to just speaking and voice acting in general, because I'm curious about myself. I was like, how much have I improved,
Yeah. Oh, honestly, see, listening back to the old episodes, I was actually saying that to one of my friends the other day. You listen back to it and you're like, oh my God, I sound so stiff and robotic. And then you listen to your newer stuff and you kind of think, you know what? We're getting better.
No, for real. It's just so funny that you mentioned that, Satsu, because when I was streaming on Monday, an OG fan of mine came through who's also one of my IRL friends, funny enough, and she's gotten super busy with life. I used to play D&D with her, then, sadly she couldn't play anymore because she's going to school out of town from Toronto, sadly, miss her. But she came through and I'm like, oh my God, how are you doing? Right? And she's like, whoa, this place has changed a lot. Yeah, I was here 2 years ago and seems a lot more put together and produced a lot better and the quality is good. I was like, oh, thanks, right? Because I think last time she was with me, I didn't really have much of an overlay going on. It was just kind of me and my camera and no green screen either, which is hilarious. I get what you mean. It's yeah, we're getting better.
It is honestly amazing to see the progress because my very good friend, Martin McAllister, who many of the listeners at home, you'll know who I'm talking about. Big shout out to Martin because he'll probably be listening to this as he's packing his presents, weightlifting them, etc. He's a wrestler, by the way. He doesn't just lift presents out of nowhere.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I was talking to him about the older episodes, about how I kind of struggle with listening to season 1. Not because they're bad episodes by any means, but purely because my editing was a lot different at that time. And he turned around to me, I remember, and he said, well, why don't you just delete those old episodes? And I'm like, well, I don't really want to because it just shows the progress that the show's gone through. I mean, if you look at things and this is something we'll probably touch on later, but, with Dungeons and Dragons and Critical Role and things, I remember listening to some of their earlier stuff during COVID.
Right.
Honestly, it's not the best quality compared to obviously what it is now. It's this big, huge budget. And while Chatsunami maybe doesn't have the same budget as that, we're still getting there. We've upgraded our mics, we've upgraded our tech. So, you know what? It is getting there. And honestly, I cannot believe it has been 4 years, roughly on the day, that our episode actually came out together, where at the time I decided, I'm going to create a podcast around October time. I streamed the first episode towards the end of October, and then while I was kind of finding my feet, I thought, right, okay, I'm going to get some of my streamer friends that I met during COVID, you of course being at the forefront.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was like, I really would love to interview you guys to see what you thought about streaming during the 2020s and things, because that's actually in the description. I've got it pulled up here.
No way. Okay.
Yeah, the description is, in this episode, Satsunami interviews his friend and fellow streamer BlowfishmanTV. From streaming experiences to anime, the duo discusses how it feels to start streaming on Twitch Twitch in the year 2020.
Wow.
Which feels like a lifetime ago, though, doesn't it?
That's what I'm saying. I was like, it does feel like a lifetime ago, but at the same time, I also felt like it kind of felt like yesterday, you know? Damn.
Oh, yeah, I know, because what I was also laughing at, and it's something you alluded to before we started recording, was that you and I, of course, are big fans of a lot of things, from anime, streaming, and especially one JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Is that right in
Hell
saying?
yeah. Man, we used to quote that shit so much. We still kind of do.
You thought this was an interview, but it's me, Setsu!
Oh, you're going to interview me?
So for anyone who, if you were around listening to the podcast during season 1, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But we used to do a show, or rather a sub-series. Ironically enough, I actually think this is technically the first unofficial sub-series of Chatsunami, if you think about it.
True.
Where Blowfish and I, we decided to review all of the parts of the JoJo anime. Now, the reason I'm laughing is because at the time, I think parts 1 to 5 were out, and part 6 had been announced that it was going to come out and everything. We were so excited because we did part 1 all the way through to 5. We also did a general retrospective of it. We did that live, actually, I think on your stream and mine. That was terrifying.
I do believe, yeah. I remember, oh yeah, guys, I got to hop off because I'm actually going to be in a podcast over here. And I literally hopped off 30 minutes before my stream just so I could help you out with setup and whatnot.
Oh,
that was great. And it was like, it's too bad I can't raid you right after. That would be quite the introduction, you know, because you also turned off all your alerts during podcast time. I do remember that. I was like, oh. It would have been quite the introduction. Be like, and our guest, oh, there he is, you know?
Yeah. Well, see, you say that, but I'm hopefully planning on getting back into live streaming and Twitch with the podcast.
Nice.
Don't know when, but hopefully soon, after the Christmas period's over, after I've got a turkey hangover, you know.
Ooh, turkey hangover. The best kind of, the best kind of hangover, seriously
True.
speaking.
Yeah, true. But of course, as I was saying, the last episode that we did together was released on September 4th, 2021, which not only is absolutely crazy and, you know, no pun intended, absolutely bizarre. I actually remember saying to you constantly, oh, I can't wait, we should do part 6, which we should technically finish off at some point. But
we should, seriously.
But I remember saying that to you, oh, we should do it. And then Netflix pulled quite possibly one of the most controversial decisions, didn't they?
Which one are we talking about? I was like, there's quite a few from what I know.
The one where they said, you know what, we're not going to advertise part 6 coming out. We're just going to slip it under the radar. Then we're going to... Yeah, then we're going to release it at Christmas and then in the summer, and then they just ghost dropped the final part, and then they complained about it not getting the views, and it was just a mess.
That was just horrible marketing at that point. It's like, guys, JoJo's a pretty big series. Like, I don't think you should just shadow drop that kind of thing, you know? Like, come on now. Shadow dropping only works for like so many things. I don't think it would have worked for JoJo. Something as big as that? Hell no.
Because the thing is, JoJo is massive, but I feel as if it's only massive to, I wouldn't say hardcore anime fans, but I'd say people who are quite invested in anime. You know, if I was introducing someone to anime, JoJo's is not something I would introduce them to. Probably.
No. Here's the thing about JoJo, right? Even if you're an anime fan, and even if an anime fan doesn't like JoJo because they don't like it in general, you're not going to, you know, please everybody with the content you put out. They don't like the art style. I've heard many reasons why people couldn't get into JoJo, and I'm like, they're all pretty valid reasons, you know what I mean? Even if those people who don't like JoJo but love anime in general, they know about it through the memes. Whenever I would drop like a, oh, you're approaching me kind of reference, the anime fans laugh because they're like, oh, we don't watch JoJo. It's just that meme is everywhere. Or just it was me, Dio, and everybody else joins in and laughs. You know what I mean? JoJo has that effect in a sense that like, hey, we might not please everybody, but hey, everybody knows us. So, you know.
Yeah, because I had a friend who kept hounding me about it, and they kept saying, go on, watch JoJo. And I'm like, okay, I'll watch it. And long-term listeners, and yourself included, you'll know that I am absolutely terrible, see, when it comes to catching up on things that people have recommended to me.
Oh, same, trust me.
Oh, honestly, the backlog of my life is very, very real. It's scary and it's in the corner, but if I don't look at it, it can't overwhelm me. So...
Hey, valid. I should probably take a page out of your book.
But yeah, I remember he kept saying, oh, watch it. It's a great anime. I was like, yeah, sure. And then it wasn't until, of course, the 2020 lockdowns when, of course, you and I met online.
Mhm.
And he was like, are you going to finally watch it? And I was like, I don't know, maybe. And then eventually I watched it on Netflix. And yeah, the rest is history. I absolutely loved it, fell in love with it. A lot of my streams at the time were very JoJo oriented.
Oh, God, yeah.
It was crazy because I think the first ever stream that I did on Twitch was like a Pokemon Nuzlocke run.
You are a madman for doing Nuzlocks. I couldn't. Like, seriously speaking, I really couldn't.
See, I feel like it's a Stockholm syndrome kind of thing because...
God.
No, genuinely, because it's like, now that I've done so many of them, I cannot play Pokemon the same.
Oh, no.
I've brought this up to people before, but it's like, you know, you'll have a gym battle and one of your Pokemon faints, and I have this lurching dread in my stomach, like, oh my god, I've lost my starter, or oh my god, I've lost this and that. And then I realise, you know, Satsu, you're not playing Nuzlocke, you're just playing casually. And it's like, I can't turn it off because I'm so used to playing like that
Fair.
whenever I play it normally, I feel like I'm cheating.
Fair.
So
you know what? Valid.
yeah.
It's like if you're used to one way of life for so long and you're like, wait, why is this so much easier? Why do I feel like I'm not doing this right? You know? I get that. Okay, I understand what you mean by Stockholm Syndrome.
It's got me in a grasp, but that's all.
It's
I'll
like
do.
gaslighting you low key, you know?
Yeah. I'm not saying that's why Pokemon haven't sponsored me yet, but that's why Pokemon haven't sponsored me yet.
I think they should. Hey, Pokemon, you really need to sponsor this guy. I mean, you know, like, I'm sure that everybody, you know, has their gripes with Scarlet and Violet. I might not be a Pokemon fan, but I've seen some of the stuff y'all go through with Scarlet and Violet. I'm like, hold on. So you're saying that the Switch can't handle this game at some points? That's wild.
The Switch, honestly, is just such a bizarre console.
It
I have to
is.
say.
It's weird, man. Every time me and Otaku, my stream team, get together and play Switch games, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, because, you know, all the server issues, they can really crap out and we're like, oh, come on, what the hell, you know?
It's absolutely bizarre because I'll confess here, I have not actually played Scarlet and Violet yet. It's the only one I didn't really pick up and play, and the reason, of course, being the very infamous glitches and things like that. Attack on Titan characters.
Wait, Attack on Titan characters? What do you mean?
Have you not seen that where it's like
No.
at the very beginning when the game was just released before the day one patch and everything, it's like people would go on their bikes and the model would just stretch out so they'd be massive and all distorted.
That is so funny. I just picture Sasageo.
That's genuinely what it felt like. It's
Oh my god.
like a wall Machop just falling right in the background.
God.
You're like, oh my god, oh.
We need to cut it at the nape.
Go Scyther, you know.
I mean, right? He would be the perfect Pokemon in that world. Oh my god, just to cut stuff up. He would be the Levi of Pokemon.
Oh, he would be. Fan fiction writers out there, take notes.
Do
Take
it.
notes.
Do it. You know, have a fight between, you know, a dream fight between Levi and Scyther. You know, that should be a death battle.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, death battle. You hearing this? Kidding.
Pokemon, if you don't want to sponsor us, Death Battle, we're here for you.
Hey, if you need voice actors, I could do a pretty good Levi. Just saying, death battle.
That is true. And that actually brings me on to a very good point there. Thank you for that segue. That
That was unintentional, but go on.
you, of course, started streaming in 2020. That's how we, of course, met and fell in the same circle.
Mhm.
That and our love of JoJo.
Hell yeah.
But, of course, one thing that you always told me, and you always told your audience as well, was that you were aspiring to be a voice actor. So before we go into the absolute heights of, let's say, stardom that you've hit now,
I don't know about stardom, but thank you. I'm very humbled by that. I was like, I mean, kinda. There's momentum there, I will say.
oh no, absolutely. Before we get into that, just for a bit of context for the listeners at home, what was it that inspired you to actually go into the world of voice acting?
Oh, dude. I remember one of the biggest things for me was, if we're going to be super non-serious about when I started, it was roughly grade 8, grade 9, actually. The biggest reason was because I was the lone anime kid in my class. You know, I was always looked at funny and looked at weird for liking that kind of stuff. You know, anime wasn't really big in the 2009s, and you're considered a nerd and a loser for it. But anyway, that's besides the point. And, you know, I was a huge fan fan of Naruto. I still love Naruto to this day. I was a manga kid way back when. Nowadays, it's like, well, I'd rather wait for the anime just to see, what it looks like animated. Because sometimes with mangas, as nice as it is to stay ahead, it's tough to sort of write and draw the parts that really require a lot more animation for like fights, for example, right? Basically, I was staying ahead of the Naruto manga. And what I would actually do I never knew it was practice. I just got super into it. Where at one point, I started reading the manga out loud and like try to put emotion into it. Probably wasn't very good, let's be honest here, It got to a point where, my family was looking at me like I was crazy because I was yelling like shadow clone jutsu at the top of my lungs to really like practice, that delivery, right? Really immerse myself in that world is probably what I was trying to go for. And then eventually I kind of stopped with that when I graduated high school. And then in university, I low-key started to get back into it due to the fact that a lot of my friends at the time thought it was hilarious. Like my Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonation was very good. And they would make me say a lot of dumb things with the Arnold voice, right? And then that led me going back to that whole thing where I would look at my favorite media, whether they're video games or they're anime, cartoons even, and I would just low-key try to recreate those scenes just by myself, just, voicing them in either through imitating each delivery or what I would think was like, hey, maybe it should be said this way. Let's see how we feel. And then afterwards, after I graduated from university, little known fact, by the way, I don't think I've ever told you this, Satsu. So funny thing about the BlowfishmanTV, just content creation channel in general, it actually started out as a YouTube channel and it actually started off as a lot of voice acting impersonation videos.
Oh.
So I would say like, hey, voice actor impersonates characters from X video game, X anime, those classic videos, right? Those classic voice acting videos where they'd have the PNG of the character they're imitating and they'd say a line and then next clip, next character, that's what I was going for, right? At one point I did the first 150 Pokemon. It was great. I deleted all those old videos just because I'm like, man, these just seem so robotic and stiff. And, there wasn't really any soul to them. You know what I mean? There wasn't really my own spin on it. It was just, I was doing impersonations and I considered that voice acting at the time. Little did I know that's kind of somewhat frowned upon in the industry. It also just depends on who you run into. I'm sure the Team 4-Star guys, those are the biggest examples. The Team 4-Star guys, they were having fun with it, obviously, with Dragon Ball Abridged and whatever, insert anime name here abridged. They were having fun with it. Toei Animation does not like those guys at all because, they're like, hey, they're profiting off of our own animation, they can't do that and what have you. It's really just Toei Animation that doesn't like them. But most of the voice actors, I want to say, they're like, hey, I think they're pretty funny. This is great. My friend who actually taught me I should really say my best friend who actually taught me all I know about voice acting, he actually showed me a deleted scene for Dragon Ball Kai. And it was basically the gang was watching Hercule's movie of how he defeated Cell.
Oh, yeah, I know the scene
you
mean. Yeah.
And they got all the Team 4-Star guys to voice everybody in that scene. But Toei decided, no, we're not going to include them in DBZ Kai and scrapped it. I'm like, oh, that sucks, right? And, Christopher Sabat was like directing that whole scene and he was really good about it and really nice about it. He's like, oh, I think these guys are hilarious. The voice of Vegeta's like really cool about it, right? But then when he had to break the news saying like, hey, Toei's not cool with it. If it were up to me, it would be in DBZ Kai, but there's only so much I could do. I'm sorry, guys, right? After hearing that, I'm like, okay, I got to kind of be careful with this, right? So then I actually stopped in 2017, I just decided, hey, voice acting's hard. Low-key, I was like a bit discouraged by my family to do it because, it's not an easy kind of career, but, it was hard. So I lived a normal life for about 2-3 years. I had a job I was freaking miserable at. Eventually, COVID rolled around. 2020 happened and, everybody was stuck in their homes. And, I ended up losing that same job just because, COVID. I thought to myself, I'm like, hey, listen, maybe we need to bring back the BlowfishmanTV channel, give this one more honest and great try. And, if it's not working out the way we want it to within a month, 2 months, then we're going to stop in general and just go back to like a normal life. This is going to sound a little messed up, Satsu, but to me, that was the second chance I've been low-key wanting to get to try again. I decided to do it. I invested in better equipment, as you can see, maybe not as good as the ones I have now, but I decided, hey, originally I was streaming for the music group I was in called T-Child Records, just to, promote our music and promote us in general as a music group. And then eventually, was it 4 months down the line, maybe? I did start to get an audience. It was mainly a lot of my IRL friends coming through saying what's up, but I also started to get more and more newcomers coming through. And this especially happened when, I was playing Eyes of Heaven, the JoJo game, right? right? So, and that was also a time when I was super into JoJo, and that's how we ended up meeting. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe I met you through Nath Gaines's raid, but at the time he was known as Nath O, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I believe, yeah, he was known as Nath O and then ended up being Nath Gaines by the end of it. He retired. He was a really funny streamer. Because what I would do on stream is just play a lot of ridiculous dating sim games, and just they didn't have a lot of voice audio. So I decided to come up with voices for these characters, and people loved it. That was me giving myself the second chance and be like, okay, maybe we can do this, right? And then eventually, I think a year into streaming, I decided to start pursuing it more seriously just due to personal issues that weren't really working out the way I wanted it to, because I think part of it was due to the fact that the person I was dating at the time, they couldn't keep up with me anymore. So they decided to, just end our relationship. Honestly speaking, it did suck. It was like a almost 3-year relationship, but it is what it is at the end of the day, right? It didn't affect me too bad as that might sound, but that's a whole different story for another day. Yeah, afterwards, that was the point where I'm like, okay, we're doing great on streaming, so we kind of have a marketing tool in our sleeve. Maybe we can for real try this out now, really try to go for it, not just streaming, as great as that is. We need to do more. And the very first person I went to was my DM / my best friend / the guy who taught me everything about voice acting. So I went to him and was like, hey, let's talk shop. Let's be real here. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, I want to try and get into voice acting and I need your help. And so he's just like, okay, first things first, before we really get into shop, I need you to invest in a homemade studio. And what that consists of, and he told me the bare minimum of what we needed to sound pretty decent on the microphone, right? And I did that within a month, and he was just so shocked. He's just like, wait, you actually went out and got all of that stuff within a month? And I'm like, yeah, dude, why? I would show him progress pictures of, hey, the studio's coming along really nicely with all the soundproof foam and what have you, right? And he was really impressed. He's like, okay. A few months ago, he's like, that's how I knew you were serious, because so many people come up to me asking, hey, how do I get into voice acting? But they never put in the work or invest even a little bit of money in order to, get a proper sounding studio for auditions. And he's like, that's how I knew you were serious, because literally after a month, 6 weeks, you showed me that you were building a studio. And I'm like, okay, he's proving me wrong. Because he's like, I was a little skeptical because of everyone coming to me and then realizing how much money it is to make a studio. Ever since then, he's like, okay, he started to basically teach me secrets of the trade. And he's like, one of the number one things that I think you currently lack right now is you need some lessons and go to workshops to learn more about voice acting. And I did a few of those already, and I still aim to do more. Ever since then, I've just been getting better, even still practicing on stream, as you can see. Any sort of practice helps. And yeah, eventually we're here, and now I got into a Genshin Impact audiobook and a friggin' Fortnite animation, which I never thought I would be a part of, which was like, what, last month roughly. It's crazy. My goodness. But yeah, now we're here, and basically how it all started was just me trying to imitate my favorite anime video game characters in my own way. All those voice actors I looked up to, which I still do, trying to, get to their level and hopefully meet them down the line and maybe learn from them. Hell, maybe one of them might even direct me for a project. Who knows, right? So
just picking up on something you said there about your friend realizing that you were serious is quite interesting, because I feel as if there's an overlap between, I think, podcasters and really just anybody who works in a mainly audio medium. The amount of people who say, I'm going to be a voice actor because I like to do silly voices, and then they kind of realize how hard it is.
Oh, it's friggin' tough, dude. Trust me. I still have a hard time, but you got to keep going. Otherwise, how are you going to really try to make any sort of dream happen with it, right?
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. I mean, did you feel like that? See, at the early stages of your voice acting career, did you feel quite nervous about going into it and knowing that you had to kind of overcome this hurdle before you started to kind of get into it?
Yeah, dude, all the time. I remember at some points, even before I started picking up some good steam that I am now, I was putting out audition after audition for these projects and I wasn't getting anything. And yeah, I would be lying if I didn't mention the whole idea of either not hearing back or saying like, hey, you were good, but not what you're looking for. I'd be lying if I didn't say it affected me a little bit. You know what I mean? It's just like, hey, do I really want to keep this going? Is it really worth all my energy and, mental strain to put out an audition and see what happens, right? But at the end of the day, I kept it going with some encouragement from, my best friend. He's like, hey, I'll be honest, that's literally how it's going to be. And, no shame if you want to back out. He encouraged me to keep going. He's like, there's something there. I think you just need to keep going. Give yourself at most another year, see how you feel. And, I took his word for it. And then I just kept it going. And for some reason, Satsu, now every time I put out an audition, either I don't hear back or they say no, I'm very cool with it now. I don't know what happened, but first I thought I was in denial. I was like, hey, am I in denial? Saying like, it's fine. I actually thought long and hard. I had to do some introspection. I was like, no, I'm actually content with how this is going. I think it was more the realization I was like, hey, this is how it's going to be if you want to make it in animation. You know what I mean? You're sadly not going to get every single role that you audition for. That would be fantastic. Oh, that would be awesome. And another thing is I ran into another lovely human being on Twitch who is also a fellow voice actress. funny enough. I don't know if Step's watching this. Not Step, twitch.tv, not Step. She streams once in a blue moon, but her and I collabed on the Phoenix Wright stuff. I think you've probably seen those videos, right, Satsu?
Oh,
yeah. She was the one playing all the girl roles, pretty much.
Yeah.
She was the only girl in the room. But I even hit her up for advice, and she's all like, hey, one of the number one things is it's great that you're putting out these auditions for animation, and I understand you want to make it. And then she sat me down and was like, but it's tough. You're going to get probably a role once a year, twice a year, 3 times a year if you're lucky. It's hard. Yes, go to classes too. Like, she told me the same thing my best friend did. But another thing that stood out from what she was telling me was like, look, if you want to try to make this a bit sustainable, don't pigeonhole yourself into one genre of voice acting. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? She's like, don't just do animation. Don't just try to get into anime dubbing, all that kind of stuff. That's great that you want to do that. And I'm not trying to discourage you. But if you want to make a living off of this, you need to do it all. You can't just stick to one genre. You know, like, do some commercials, do some narration. Hell, do some Fiverr projects if you need some extra money in your pockets. She encouraged me to really like push myself out there into the other genres, right? And, you know, I took her advice, and actually it's been working out a lot better, because come 2023, I ended up hitting up actually a startup company. And, you know, their whole thing was, oh, you know, we do narrations for a lot of YouTube videos, and we get clients talking about the hottest trends or like what's good in the world right now. That's mainly what we do, you know. So I decided to keep an open mind and go for it. I'm like, hey, I want to get into the world of narration. I want to give this a shot. Here is, you know, my sample of what my reads sound like. Because one of the number one things that a lot of my voice acting teachers told me was, hey, you have a really good natural read, and I think that'll be your moneymaker. That's what's going to keep you going and sustain, basically have some financial sustenance. Because at the end of the day, dude, yeah, it's great that you're doing what you love, but at the same time, you're also only human. You need to keep a roof over your head. You need to keep yourself fed if you want to keep doing this. So I do believe with me, age kind of came with that mindset, in the sense of like, I can't just do animation anymore. I need to do it all, right? So I decided to take Step's advice a bit more seriously now. But yeah, no, I got in. Needless to say, it was a startup company. You're always going to have your hiccups and what have you. So a bit of a shaky start, but now as we do it more, we're a lot more professional and getting a lot better. We're getting a lot more clients, hence getting me more work, you know what I mean? Which is great. And now that has become my main source of income for voice acting. Not enough to the point where I can quit my job currently, because that's one of my goals. But yeah, that's what I'm working towards, so I can eventually just not have to worry about paying bills and just live my best life on my own terms. You know, that was one of my things too. But yeah, no, now I mainly make money off of narrations while also still auditioning for stuff I want to be in, like animation, because I feel like a part of it is that, hey, I might not be doing what I truly want to do with voice acting, but I'm still voice acting. You're still a voice actor at the end of the day, or voiceover artist if you want to go with a professional feel. You know, I'm still doing it. And that was mainly what I wanted to do, is like, you're still doing it. You're making money. You're fed. You have a place over your head, and you're actually like good with bills. I think now that I've gotten older, things have changed when it comes to priorities. I also decided, I don't know if I told you this, but I'm going to be recording my first ever commercial demo, and I'm going to try to go for an agent in 2025. I'm going to send out that demo to agencies just to see if they're hiring anyone, right? If you're good with commercials, you will make a lot of money. And I'm like, okay, we need to get the financial stability to not only just invest in myself and the bills, but invest in this too, because I want to take more classes, right? And maybe invest in marketing if I can. That would be cool too, right? Because that's currently my plan right now. But yeah, now we're here, and then it's all full circle, because one of my biggest voice acting dreams, which is one of my more wholesome dreams, which my best friend and Step found really cute, was ever since I did that Phoenix Wright collab with Step and I'll just say his name, Ryan, when they were both with me on Twitch, and we're just doing all the silly voices for all the ridiculous characters that Phoenix Wright have to offer. One of my biggest dreams was, I want to be in a project with these two. We don't have to be the protagonist trio. We just have to be in the same sort of world and media. That came true a lot faster than I thought, because that Fortnite thing that I voiced, they're both in it too. Step is actually voicing one of the main characters in that whole game mode. And then Ryan is actually voicing basically the guy that gives you upgrades and what have you. So I'm like, oh, well, that dream came true a lot faster than I thought. You know what I mean? And yeah, it all just came full circle at the end, which is still really funny to me. And I told them that. They're like, oh, you wholesome bastard, come here, you. Gave me a virtual hug and what have you, you know. But yeah, now we're here, dude, just making my money mainly off of narration. And now I'm doing this fantastic podcast with one of my longtime friends. And I'm, you know, I couldn't be happier right now.
Oh, thank you. And your PayPal donation is in transit just now.
Oh, yes.
For that compliment.
Yeah. I hope it's all there. I mean, I take it in installments too, just saying.
So, sorry, just to double check, is your email, what is it, best voice actor in Canada at
Canada.ca, yes.
At Canada.ca.
That's
right, okay.
Exactly. Yes, thank you. You know, you have to make it VO capital, because there's a small VO and he's not as big as me.
Oh, of course. And for legal reasons, that was indeed a joke. The Red Panda lawyer is waving me down.
Yes, so is my Blowfish lawyer. They're looking at this, you know. Don't worry, guys, we're good.
Oh my god, it's like a Phoenix Wright situation with the Red Panda.
God. Yeah, Red Panda and a Blowfish in like a suit and what have you. Objection.
Yeah.
Oh Lord.
You see, you joke about that, but I've actually, and I have no idea why I commissioned it, but I love it. It's just a really angry looking Red Panda and a waistcoat and the jacket. I edited it into the Phoenix Wright courtroom just with the text that says, for legal reasons, this is a joke.
That's amazing. I need to see that. I really need to see. Yeah, send that to me after this, or if you can show it now, if that's possible.
Oh yeah, I can say.
Hell yeah, I'd love to see that. That sounds so funny.
See, the artists that I get to do our work, they must just kind of look at me and go, what do you want?
They're like, what is this guy smoking? Okay, pretty much, right? So
at this stage, I think they're just being polite.
Oh, 100%. They're like, I'm making money. It's fine. I'll do this. Yeah. You know, it's fine. It's good money. And he's a podcaster. I understand, you know?
Yeah, there it is there.
Let's see here. Let
For
me
the
see
listeners,
this.
I've just sent it through.
Oh, that's amazing. That's great, dude.
I genuinely can't remember when that joke actually started, to be honest. Mm-hmm. But I just remember thinking, I've said it so many times throughout the years. I have to get him commissioned. I have to get him immortalized in Chatsunami lore, as it were.
I feel like I need to hit up the same artist and be like, could you do the same except with this Blowfish instead? Blowfish. They'd be like, what the fuck?
Well, actually, I could probably hit up. And for anyone who is curious about Blowfish and I's JoJo Bizarre Adventure reviews, I actually got those redone, would you believe? Because I remember it was a purple background and it was just the text that said Chatsunami, and then it was whatever part it was, like Diamond is Unbreakable or Golden Wind.
Part 4 was so good.
Oh, it really was.
It was so good. Anyway.
But then I ended up asking my very good friend, Rose Carlo, who, amazing chibi artist, honestly, if you haven't heard of him by now, he's on Twitter and he's on Blue Sky, hit him up. But I came to him and I was like, I've got this idea that I've had in my head for a good couple of years now. Would you be able to draw the Red Panda avatar as Jotaro and the Blowfish as Star Platinum?
That was amazing. I think I know what you're talking about. It sounds familiar.
Yeah, he understood the assignment, definitely. It looks amazing, but I'm so glad that we managed to get it done.
Right.
See, to be fair, the lovely guy, I think he's just used to me asking now.
He's just like, okay, what's he thinking of this time? Okay, I could do that, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. He keeps contacting me being like, oh, so what is it this time? And I'm like,
right.
Yeah. For example, a couple of months ago, my friends Martin, Andrew and I, we did a Dragon Ball month, and it took me ages to come up with, oh, what do I want? I want one person as Goku, one as Vegeta, oh, but then there's a third one, and there wasn't really a good trio in Dragon Ball, so I thought, what could I have where all three of us are included? Anyway, long story short, that's why the cover art for that month is us doing the Ginyu Force poses.
Yeah, I saw that. That was amazing. Yeah. I was like, let's go.
Yeah, honestly, the art that comes from those 3 months is just absolutely incredible.
You as Captain Ginyu is just, it's amazing.
It's amazing and horrifying. Again, I think he does an amazing job every time, but there's always that slight trepidation of saying, do you know what I mean when I say this? And he's like, yeah, it's fine. And you're like, I hope he knows what I mean.
And then he shows it and you're like, this is amazing.
Oh, it always is. Because I remember the first time I came to him and I was like, can I get you to draw a red panda playing with a controller? And he was like, yeah, sure. And it was more a semi-realistic panda. And I was like, oh, great. And I mean, you'll probably remember this because it was my profile picture for the longest time. And then he started moving away to more cartoony concepts. Now I feel as if it's just like second nature. Honestly, if you're listening to this and you want to use them on your art CV, please, for the love of God, do.
Yeah, do it. That way you also get like the exposure and be like, hey, what is this podcast? You know, you never know. Yeah. When it comes to podcasting, the community is pretty large, dude. There's so many people out there that want to listen to podcasts.
See, it's a lot bigger than I genuinely thought it was. Streaming, there's a dime a dozen of us. I mean, whenever you go into Twitch, for every, I don't know, one person playing, I don't know, like Ace Attorney or something like that, there's thousands of others behind behind. And don't get me wrong, you get the same in podcasting, but I feel as if in podcasting, although you get your bad apples here and there,
Oh, yeah.
I do think for the most part, they are a very supportive community to one another. For example, I started a group last year called the Podpack Collective, and that group of podcasters, honestly, they keep me going.
Good.
They're just absolutely fantastic people. I mean, it's the same with yourself as well when it came to streaming, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to keep going with this, but then I met people like yourself, and then I thought, you know what, it's actually not that bad, and we kept going at it. And although we've technically diverged from streaming,
both of us have, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I only do it twice a week now because I want to focus on this more. And like the community was very understanding. They're like, yeah, dude, go for it. I'm happy that, you know, there's steam there now. Now you're trying to capitalize on it. It's like pretty much.
And again, you'll probably hear the motivational music in the background here when I say this, but
Eye of the tiger, baby.
Yeah. It's like when you go for your passion projects, you have to take chances at it.
You really do. Seriously.
It's something that I think a lot of people heavily underestimate. I mean, myself included. When I started the podcast, I did it as a spin-off to streaming because I didn't really know if I wanted to keep going as a streamer or was I going to do this, do that. The more the years went on, the more I enjoyed podcasting. If it wasn't for podcasting, then there's a lot of opportunities I wouldn't have got otherwise, and I wouldn't have been as close to a lot of people without that. But I mean, it must be the same with you and, of course, voice acting, where it's something that you begin with because you enjoy it and you think, oh, right. I mean, you don't necessarily think it's going to be easy, but you think, oh, how hard could it be? Final last words.
Trust me, yeah. When I was first starting, I was like, I got this. I got talent. I'm like, no, but there's also like so many other people that also have talent. Jesus Christ, you know?
But do you get that a lot from, let's just say, the more negative side of the internet where they kind of put down voice acting as, oh, it's just silly voices. Oh, it's easy. I could do that.
Trust me. There's so many people out there that are like, oh, I can't be that hard. There's a lot of people I've ran into that are like, oh, I have a good Elmo impersonation. Great. Anything else? You know what I mean? It's like, it's going to take more than just your Elmo and Kermit impersonation to get yourself out there. And not only that, there's going to be rarely anybody in like a studio or someone trying to make something, genuinely try to make a passion project happen. And, you know, this idiot walks in with a Elmo or like Kermit impersonation. Is like, this is not what we're looking for. What are you doing? You know what I mean? There's a lot of people like that. Unfortunately, like you said, there's bad apples in every community. I've also ran into a lot of people in the voice acting community that are also incredibly supportive. The guy running the startup company that I'm in for the narrations, he became an accountability buddy of mine, and he's a really good dude, and he's going to be directing me for my commercial demo because I'm like, hey, do you do directing? Because I think you know what my voice sounds like and like what I'm good at, and you're also very good at capturing my niches with my voice, so I think I'm going to need your help making this commercial demo happen. And he was very cool with it. He's like, yeah, dude, you know, I'll also get my buddy who also mixed my demos too, and his demos sound really good. And I'm like, oh, who is this guy? He's just like, oh yeah, no, thankfully he doesn't charge that much compared to like how many other people charge out there for recording a whole demo. So it was affordable. He had to ask me a few questions like, okay, be honest here, how much training have you actually had? And I told him where and with who, and he's like, okay, cool, right? And I think based off of that, they were determining a price. And you know, thankfully it was something very affordable, that's something pretty affordable. So having accountability buddies definitely will help. And I'm sure you feel the same way with your podcast collective group, yeah?
Oh no, absolutely, because they definitely keep me in check is the wrong word, because I always joke, we've got a lovely member of the group who runs a podcast called the Two Girls One Reusable Cup podcast.
That sounds so funny.
Oh no, it is. It's hilarious. We did an amazing interview episode together, and she's been on since talking about especially Mass Effect. Let's just say Mass Effect was the big one. At the start of next year, we will have an amazing episode coming out on stunt food, which is going to be so fun. But we always joke that she is the one that if the group's not in check, she'll start throwing sustainable bricks at us to keep going.
Hey, you need someone like that. That's the thing. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's amazing what you can get out of it because, and this is something, it's like the kind of sentimental hours here, but it's amazing what you can get out of a creative endeavour like that. And you get, not always, but you usually get what you put into it.
Right.
I don't mean if you put in all of your effort, you're going to get all of it back again right away, because that's unfortunately just just not how
That's
it works.
sadly not how it works. Basically, you won't get your fruits of your labor as quickly as you might think. And, that's not for everyone. And that's not faulting anyone out there. There's just some people who just can't do it because they want fast results. And that's fine,
Because I remember, and you probably remember as well, the amount of just negativity in the streamer community when it was just so many people saying, oh, I don't know why I'm not famous, and oh, these people are rubbish.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, it's like, you're allowed to be discouraged if you're not getting as fast results as you think. But at the same time, you have to put in some kind of positive energy in there to get it back again. Because I do remember this, especially with podcasting recently, where there's a few podcasters that I've met that have complained about, oh, I don't get the listens, I don't get the retention, or this and that. And you're trying to be supportive to be like, okay, what can you do here to say, oh, let's, I don't know, network more, or let's do this or that. But it's always the more and more they complain about it, it's more apparent they don't really want to fix anything or change the way that they do things. And it's one thing being stubborn and set in your ways, because I know Chatsunami especially, we are still at that stage where we can experiment with episodes, do just wacky different types of episodes. Whereas there's a lot of people out there who, whether it's streamers, whether it's YouTubers, podcasters, they'll do the same thing day in, day out, but they're not very engaging with it, if you know what I mean.
I understand, yeah. That's the thing.
This isn't shouting out anybody in particular, but it's doing that kind of thing and then being Pikachu shocked face
when things don't work out, right? Building on to your point, one of the number one things my buddy Ryan, the guy who taught me everything, told me was if you get kicked off of a project because, something happens, budget constraints, or like they found a better fit, obviously you're allowed to be mad about it. One of the things is like, hey, keep any sort of personal feelings off the internet. You could rant about it to me all you want, just don't post it on Twitter because, producers will see that and they'll notice he's being salty about it. Maybe we shouldn't hire this person. One of the biggest examples he gave me was, I believe it was Hell of a Boss. Do you know Hell of a Boss?
Oh, yeah.
I believe it was Hell of a Boss. I could be wrong, but originally it was a YouTube series, right? And then Amazon Prime picked it up, which is fantastic. And then what ended up happening was they basically took out the original cast and replaced it with other people, basically more well-known voice actors and what have you, right? Some of those voice actors in the original YouTube cast, they didn't like that. And, they were going off on Twitter and social media saying like, oh, what the hell and what have you. Basically your typical negative stuff. Some of them didn't do that. Some of them were pretty cool about it. They're like, hey, that sucks, but it is what it is, right? And guess who got brought back as extras for Hell of a Boss in the Amazon Prime version? The people who didn't make a huge fuss about it. Whereas the people who did and went on Twitter and be negative about it, they didn't bring them back. That is the biggest example he gave me. He's like, yeah, be like the latter group of people. Don't be like the former group of people. You could rant about it to me all you want, and I'm glad to do that for you because you're my best friend, but yeah, just keep it off the internet. I was like, oh yeah, no, trust me. I know that from streaming because I see some, streamers out there that just like to spout negativity because they're not growing as fast, right? And again, not calling out anyone here either. I see a lot of that happen, which is why when it comes to Twitter for me, I only stay there 5 minutes a day just looking for voice acting work from indie creators that be like, hey, I really want to make my video game or animation happen. Auditions for the lines are right here. Auditions are due X date, right? That's all I do on Twitter now. And maybe like the homies post if, they appear on my feed. I'll be like, oh, Satsu's killing it on a podcast? Like, oh, Mirage is killing it for streaming? Like, Mike is killing it on stream? That's all I really do on Twitter. Just keep it positive and business-like, but stay away from the negative. It affects you at the end of the day, even though it doesn't have to do with you, right? And you're not involved. I don't know if that's just me.
No, I'm completely with you there because there's only maybe the odd one or two things that I'll see that really irks me. And again, I don't mean that in the sense of, oh, I'm angry at, the state of podcasts and but if there's something that is worth talking about or bringing attention to, then sure, maybe I'll talk about it if it's like a personal thing that affects me or the channel. But I'm completely with you there because the amount of people I see who complain about, is there any point? Oh, I can't be bothered. I think what people fail to realise, no matter what type of creator you are, is there is a fine line between being human, being very open and transparent with your emotions. That is perfect perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go from one side or the other, whether you're overly positive or
overly negative,
yeah, the fact is that you have to remember, we can certainly talk for hours about how certain content creators don't realise this, that if you're putting yourself out there, you're putting yourself out there to represent your own branding, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's for your streaming channel, whether it's for yourself, what you do on the internet reflects on you as a person.
That's what I'm saying, right?
For a lot of people, they don't seem to really understand that. So you get a lot of people with very, let's face it, feral audiences that come after people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I mean, compared to our sizes versus, God knows, you know, I'm not going to name names, but insert any huge content creator here.
Right.
But there's that kind of accountability that I know, of course, you have and I have, and realising that if we want to succeed in our respective fields, we can't just stomp our feet, because the amount of times, and granted it's only a small amount, but the amount of times that I've reached out to people to say, hey, do you want to do an episode? And they've either said no, they've maybe ghosted me, or they've said, I don't know. That is perfectly fine.
It is fine.
Because, I mean, A, they're obviously entitled to say no. They don't have to say, oh, I want to be part of Chatsunami. But B, as well, there would be absolutely zero benefits of me stomping my feet saying, oh, how dare they not come on the podcast and talk and blah, blah, blah. Because it doesn't benefit me, not just in terms of image, but also as a person, because that is just such a toxic mindset to have, to say that people, oh, they should be honoured and everything. And there's a time and a place for...
Oh, sorry, I had to decide that, oh, you should be honoured. I'm like, oh, I know so many people like that. I hate it.
Oh, is it that bad?
No, I'm just like, oh, I've heard so many people say like, oh, they rejected me. Oh, they should be honoured that they got invited. I'm like, no, they're entitled to their time, who they give their time to, and if they want to come on.
Yeah.
Well, they're people at the end of the day.
I feel as if there is a time and a place for that kind of attitude.
Yeah.
If you're trying to, you know, big yourself up and say, okay, I'm the best, I'm going to be able to do this. You want to tell yourself that. You don't want to go in saying, oh, I guess I'm going to be the next podcast for you. You know,
No, you don't.
you don't want to go in like Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh or anything.
Right.
But at the same time, you want to give confidence. You don't want to give off arrogance. I do think that is something that a lot of creators at the very beginning, especially, they fumble at. And especially if they get a modicum of success where they kind of think, oh, I'm too famous, therefore I'm not going to give my time to people.
That's the thing. Yeah, there's always the polar ends of each spectrum. I'm like, there's either the people who think they're just that good, and then the other side that, oh, I'm not going to waste my time on you. You're nothing to me. And I'm like, oh God, there's no one in the middle. That's like me. But yeah, no, I completely get what you mean. I'm like, a lot of people think like, oh, whatever I put out on the internet, whatever persona I have out there, no one's going to take it seriously. And I'm like, well, here's the thing, you know, sure, you're putting a part of yourself out there on the internet, whether you're a streamer, content creator, anything, right? But the thing is, there's also a bit of truth to those personas that people like to put out there. They're a small part of you, but they're magnified times 100. What a lot of people do, I even catch myself doing it, is whatever energy they give off while they stream, this mainly like applies to stream, is basically what I like to try to do is, what kind of energy do I want to give off to my community? And, you know, I try to picture myself in the viewer's shoes to see like what I would want to see, what would make me happy, what would make me entertained. Whenever I give my time to someone who is live streaming, you know, I try to be like, okay, we'll go for chill, positive energy, you know, try to, you know, lift people up. That's what I want to do. That's a part of me. It might not be all of Ollie de Vega. That might be BlowfishmanTV, if you understand what I mean by that. But those personas that people like to put out there, they're probably parts of themselves that they didn't know they had, and it's just magnified times 100. And I like to say, you're looking at yourself through a stained glass. It's like a part of you, but it's also not. Basically, if you're a viewer and you're watching yourself, you're looking at an aspect of you through like, I guess, a kaleidoscope, or not the most clear glass, but times like 100. Or I could really put it like, that part of you is kind of like a tiny ant, and you're looking at it through a magnifying glass times like 100. So that's how I like to see, you know, these stream personas. And I'm like, yeah, put yourself in the audience's shoes for once. What do you want to see? And that kind of comes off as like, oh, he's only making content for himself. I mean, not really, but at the same time, I can see why people would think that, because I'm like, he's only really doing it because he wants to make content for him. And I was like, well, I feel like there has to be a tiny bit of greed when making content, because at the end of the day, if you're making content for something that you're not super passionate about, or you're not really aligned with, people on the internet, they're not stupid. They're going to see it. Even if you try to fake it, I'm like, there might be a lot of trolls and idiots out there, but they can see things. That's the thing. I don't know if you feel the same way, Satsu, but
this is the thing that, and again, there's a severe irony of me saying this because I used to VTube, I still technically VTube, but I feel as if the major problem it all stems from is there's a lot of content creators out there that don't want to be themselves.
Yeah.
They want to be the next whatever, you know?
Right.
I mean, it's like, for example, if you went around saying, oh, I want to be the next Chris Saba or Sean Schemmel, you know.
I will say, I wish I was at their levels.
Yeah.
If someone were to genuinely call me that and believe it, I'm like, hey, thank you for the compliment, but I am nowhere near their level. That's like me. Thank you. I will take that though.
But that's the thing though. It's like there's definitely a difference between setting your goals to that and saying, I want to be on their level. I want to be just as talented as them. And I mean, it's the same with podcasting. When I hear a lot of people saying, oh, I want to be the next, whether it's Critical Role for D&D podcasts or, oh, I want to be the next Joe Rogan for whatever God-forsaken reason. They want to be somebody else, you know?
Right.
And especially when it comes to VTubing, that opened my eyes. And I think because there's a lot of anime fans, of course, in the fandom, and they see a lot of these models of...
like waifus and husbandos. I know what you mean.
Pretty much scantily clad.
Scantily clad. Some husbandos. We could do both. Some they, thems as well, you know?
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that, in my opinion, but...
Oh, no, absolutely. But, you know, you get them with the over-exaggerated features and the widely complicated lore. They're like a demon that's been trapped for 1,000 years.
Right.
And then for some weird reason, they woke up and decided to go on Twitch. It's like, okay.
And people really get into it. It's super interesting. I was like, what? Dang, this is literally like running a cult at that point.
I mean, don't get me wrong, there's been so many success stories through it. There was that Iron Mouse who broke that sub record recently.
She's crazy. Iron Mouse is absolutely insane.
Oh, no, she is absolutely fantastic. But you've also got that, I can't remember her name, is it Guru or something?
I don't know a lot too many VTubers, honestly speaking. I'm friends with a few, and they're really funny people off stream. That's the thing. So.
Oh, yeah, same.
I feel like I should include you in that list. It's like, you are technically a VTuber, so.
I'm like, you know that meme where it's a guy at the party in the corner and he's like, nobody knows I was a VTuber.
Is that you?
Yeah, that's me. Just like, nobody knows.
Pretty much.
See, whenever I go out to either walk my dog or I go to the shops and I wear my Chatsunami hoodie, and I mean this, even at Comic-Con, nobody has stopped me and gone, hey, are you Satsunami from Chatsunami?
I was like, why does your voice sound familiar? Are you a red panda by chance?
I mean, I've actually gotten compliments for the logo and everything, being
nice.
like, oh, that's a cool logo and things, and that's really cool. But yeah, sorry, going back to VTube, and sorry, the reason that I brought up that shark girl person is because I saw a video recently of like a baseball game, and they were singing, I think it was Take Me Out to the Ball Game or something like that, on a big screen. You see nowadays the popularity that has boomed from this industry, so you get a lot of, and in particular younger streamers as well, they want to replicate that success. They want to be the next demon or
the next king or something like that, you know?
Or the next quote-unquote
Lewdtubers and whatnot. Yeah, I get that.
There's some that I think probably take it at the other end. And I mean, again, it's not just the VTubers, it's usually people who, they want to emulate their favourite creators, like they want to be the next, and I said this in an episode before where I was like, oh, they want to be the next Pokemon or PewDiePie, and I'm like, those two probably haven't been as relevant in a while compared to, you know, the new ones.
Yeah, like there's a lot of up-and-comers that have just taken off somehow, you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think the recent ones is it Kai Cenat?
Kai Cenat. Yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah.
I only started knowing these new up-and-comers, funny enough, Satsu, was due to my narration work, because sometimes I even do narrations about these new up-and-comers, whether they're really horrible people or really good people. You know what I mean? So
yeah, you find out very, very fast.
Pretty much, right?
In this day and age, you definitely find out fast. But that's the thing, though. People want to be like these people. And don't get me wrong, it's great to aspire to that. And I have to say, in podcasting, there's not really... I mean, don't get me wrong, the people that I do look up to in the podcasting sphere is my fellow indie podcasters, especially in the Podpack Collective. We've got the Two Girls, One Usable Cup podcast. We've got Casting Views, Seismic Cinema, the Game Club Pod, Nerdastalgic. And there's honestly just so many other podcasters that I've met during my time there. I look up to them, I would say, more than probably bigger podcasters. Industry standard podcasters.
Yeah.
There are good podcasters out there. I'm not diminishing their success, but the thing is, I feel as if I learn a lot more from them, and it's nice being with them in that level to be like, right, okay, how can I make my show better, but also try to bring these guys along as well?
Right.
Whereas I think a lot of people think, oh, right, I want to be the best content creator.
That no one ever was.
Yeah, exactly. To beat them, it's a real test, and now they're in jail.
Yeah.
But that's another story. It's crazy to think the amount of people who don't want to be themselves. I find that quite sad, to be honest.
It is very sad.
There's a commentary in there about the fact that Twitter/X has been overrun with bots now.
Oh, God, yeah.
Especially about people not wanting to be themselves because they all are just the same computer code. But it's really sad to see, because people are either too afraid just to, and again, I'm not expecting them to come out with hot takes or controversial things, but it's like, you know, when you were younger and you like something and then someone's like, oh, you like that, and then you had to pretend almost that, oh no, I don't like it, to fit in with the rest of the kids. And now it almost feels like that more mature way. I mean, now I don't care. I just talk about Sonic and red pandas all day, every day. Because I mean, I have to admit, I suppose my red panda is to your blowfish in a way.
Pretty much, right? Yeah.
It's something that you brought up earlier, and I think that is such a perfect point, was how there's a lot of people out there that they don't realise that a part of them becomes their persona.
Right.
You know, it's like you could spend hours and hours crafting, again, Demon Lord, King, Toaster, or something like that.
Toaster, refrigerator, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know?
They could craft this and, you know, they could be over the top and, oh, I'm a shouty kind of streamer, but then at the end of the day, they still have a part of them that's attached to that. While when I started, I had absolutely zero intention. Like, don't get me wrong, you know, I big stuff up and things like that, but I never try to be somebody that I'm not, whether it's on the podcast, whether it's streaming or anything like that, because at the end of the day, as silly as it sounds, and I wonder if you feel the same about yours, but, you know, it's like it's my podcast and my work. So,
right.
I mean, do you feel the same way as well with your voice acting, your streaming, and so on?
Oh, dude, 100%. So, you know, going back to the whole thing of people don't want to be themselves, or really your point of like, hey, they're trying to be, if we're going to talk about voice acting, the next Chris Sabat or Sean Schemmel, right? I remember one of the biggest mistakes I made early on was trying to do their reads, trying to do their style of reads, right? But the thing is, my best friend really like snapped me out of that and encouraged me to be like, hey, don't try to be those guys, because they're them and they're you. You know what you need to try to be like? You need to try to be like Ollie de Vega. How would Ollie de Vega read this? Pretend that for some reason, Chris Sabat, Sean Schemmel don't exist, or whoever like he was talking about at the time. You need to picture it in the sense of like, hey, say you got the role of X character. How would you read these lines? Forget your inspirations for a minute. We want to see you, right? So ever since then, my reads have become a lot better and a lot more natural. And I'm very happy about that, because if I tried to imitate one of my inspirations, I think people would see that, be like, this guy's not really being himself. He's not really selling it. He's just imitating it. One of the biggest things that my best friend said to me was like, hey, if they wanted name voice actor here for the role, they could have hit them up, but they want you. They don't want them. They're probably aware of how famous they are and how good they are. They want you. They don't matter. You do at this moment, right? That's like one of the biggest advices he gives me, right? So, you know, ever since like I just act, but also not act, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
My reads sound way better and a lot more genuine. But yeah, no, I do completely agree that people are too scared to really be themselves and put themselves out there. You know what I mean? And it is a little sad to see that with a lot of VTubers. I'm not saying it's all of them. You know, they have the benefit of just hiding behind this model they've made 90% of the time, which is a made up number. You know, they're super self-conscious, like, oh, are people going to like me? This is an assumption really, but I feel like if I were to do that, it would get to a point for me where I'm like, hey, listen, I would have some introspection, be like, does the community only like me because of who I portray, which is some crazy demon lord VTuber? I don't know. Blowfish VTuber, we'll go with that. Imagine. Or will they like me for me if I were just to stream myself? I feel like for me as an artist, it would get to that point for me to be like, do they only really like me for who I put on screen or who I am? And, you know, that would kind of mess with me quite a bit. That's why I couldn't do VTubing. As fun as it sounds, I'm like, I couldn't do it. I don't know. Because I think I would, knowing the actor side of me, I would really get into that persona and then just, yeah, I don't know. And then people are going to just really like that side of me and just not all of me. And I don't know. That doesn't sit well with me, man.
You have a great point, though, because a lot of people, and this is going into the very deep topic of parasocial relationships, where a lot of communities, they'll attach themselves onto this idealized image of a particular person or creator, and especially when it comes to VTubing, because whether they like it or not, they've got the good art, they've got the bad art, they've got the communities that grow underneath them. You're completely right. You have to step back as a creator and say to yourself, are they liking me for me, or are they just liking it because of how I present this particular character, this somewhat OC, as it were.
Right.
Going back to the Sonic days there, flashback, when I put the red panda there, I'm kind of stuck with it now, in a good way, but every time there's like a red panda that pops up on Twitter or Blue Sky or anything, I keep getting tagged in it as if, oh, is that you, Satsu?
That's funny.
And it's just a red panda eating an apple or something like, yeah, that's me. Or they'll joke and say, oh no, that's my PR manager or something.
It's my cousin or something like that.
Yeah, it's just as great to do something like that and kind of joke around. But I can imagine for the more, because mine's is essentially like a joke-ish model, but for some people, it's their somewhat identity online. Again, it sounds like really silly to say, but when I started streaming VTubing, I was a nervous wreck at the end of every stream. I was like, oh God, I don't know if I did well. I don't know if people are liking me. Honestly, like, I'm a nervous wreck in real life. Let's face it. Oh no, I've gotten better. I mask it better.
That's good. That's good.
But at the end of the day, I was like, oh, I don't know if people like my content or they like me, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like exposure therapy, as blunt as that sounds. But yeah, you do it day in, day out. You try different things. And then, of course, when the Red Panda came along, it almost felt like and again, this is going to sound like the weirdest superhero ever, like an alter ego, as it were.
That's so cute.
Normal people, when they say, oh, they've got like a wolf or a dragon inside them, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I get that.
Yeah, apparently mine's is a red panda.
That's so cute.
But it's like now whenever I see the red panda, I obviously can't separate it from the fact that I associate it with the podcast, with the community, to the extent I'm calling the listeners and followers Pandalorians and things. It's built up over the years, but it's also almost given me the confidence to go out there, to put my persona out there. It's something that I don't think a lot of people probably would really expect. I think when people go into it, they think, right, okay, let's slap and again, no shade to anyone who does use this, but they use the GFX logo and they're like, oh, look, it's me, but animated.
Right.
No, there's so much more to that you're putting yourself into this. And it sounds as if I'm admitting to living the Hannah Montana lifestyle, but with like a red panda.
Yo, right? I know that feeling too. It's like, is this my Hannah Montana? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My BlowfishmanTV.
See, in all seriousness, do you go out to places or Comic-Cons and things and you look around and think, nobody here knows that I'm a famous voice actor?
Oh, dude. Yeah. I wouldn't say famous voice actor, but oh God. You know what the biggest example of that is actually, Satsu? I don't know if I told you this, dude. So one, I do have a girlfriend, but she's all the way in Connecticut. Every year I go there to go to the local Connecticut convention for everything. There's anime stuff there, video game stuff there. Voice actors go there too. Some of my favorite ones like actually attend. And I end up meeting 3 of my favorite ones. All the ones I met were all 3 of my favorite lady voice actors. One of them being, I don't know how deep you are into Digimon fandom, but I met Rika's voice actress, which is Renamon's partner, right? And she was an absolute sweetheart. Melissa Fawn, great human being. And, I've also known her for other work as well. And what was so cool about it was her booth was literally beside the main Cowboy Bebop cast's booth. So she was beside Jet's booth as well as Faye's booth. Sadly, Stephen Blum couldn't make it because he's Spike, because he's doing Stephen Blum things and he's really popular. And I do want to attend his classes one day. But, I was telling her, I was like, yeah, it'd be so nice if, Steve could make it. She's like, yeah, I know, I miss him. But I think after this, we're all going to go meet up with him since Connecticut's not too far from Jersey. So yeah, it's still going to be, a Cowboy Bebop reunion, right? Absolute sweetheart. And in my head, I'm like, she doesn't know I'm one of her. And I'm like, well, you have a good day, Melissa. You know what I mean? And I literally felt the exact same way for Raiden Shogun's voice actress from Genshin Impact, who's also cool as fuck. I don't know if you know Chainsaw Man, but Makima's voice actress I met, and she's absolute sweetheart too. That was like literally me as I was conversing with 3 of my senpais. And I'm like, they don't know that I'm one of them. And who knows, maybe one day I get some role in an anime and they're part of it and they see me, they'd be like, wait a second. That would be crazy, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's like, the Spider-Man pointing.
Yeah,
meme.
pretty much.
It's like, wait a minute.
Oh, dude. So one of the biggest things was, only my girlfriend could tell because she knows me very well, was the very first time I went over to Kineticon. I met, are you familiar with Yu Yu Hakusho by chance?
Oh, yes.
I met Yusuke's voice actor. I went to one of his panels and he's a really cool dude. If we're going to talk Dragon Ball Z, he's Raditz in it, as well as Super Boo. So that's who he plays in the Dragon Ball Z universe. He was such a cool dude, man. It was the biggest senpai notice me moment, but I hit it so well. After he was done talking about his career and what got him into voice acting, and he's like, yeah, man, so does anybody have any questions? And I raised my hand up first, right? So I was like, yeah, I have a question. He's like, yeah, you in the back over there. And I asked him, I was like, hey, when recording for Yusuke's lines, he screams Spirit Gun so much. How many times were you close to losing your voice, or did you ever lose your voice during those recording sessions? And he laughed. He's like, that's actually a really good question, because when we were doing Yu Yu Hakusho, it was just me, Chris, Laura Bailey, and like a few others. There's like 5 of us, and we had to record our lines by ourselves as well, dub them and like kind of edit them. So like, here's how every session went. I would watch the scene to make sure I'm screaming Spirit Gun correctly, because I only had one monitor at the time. So here's how it'd go. I watch the scene, I get it down in my head, then I press record, run into the studio, run back out, turn off the record button, and see if it aligns. So that's how he would do it, right? So, and after that, he's like, yeah, that was a really good and funny question. What's your name, man? And I'm like, my name's Ollie. Oh, Ollie, lovely to meet you. Yeah, awesome question, man. My girlfriend could tell I was just like, he asked for my name. In my head, I was like so quiet, and I'm like, And my girlfriend knows, she's like, by the way, you're the only one he asked that question to. You're the only one he asked, what's your name? And I'm like, oh my God, he picked me in my head. Yeah, such a cool dude, though. Honestly, I really like Justin Cook.
Justin, if you're listening to this episode, you're looking at the future.
I don't know about future, but
superstar.
Thank you. I'll be like, if you end up recording me for some gig, hell yeah. Because he's more on like the directing side nowadays, right? So that's the thing. But yeah, that was a very big senpai notice me moment. Have you ever had any moments like that for the podcasting side of things, Satsu?
Yes and no, but it's mainly been through Twitter interactions. I remember my friends Adam and I, we did an episode on the game Deadly Premonition, which is probably the worst game that I love.
Oh no.
As silly as it sounds, it's like a homage to Twin Peaks, as it were,
Okay.
but the graphics are terrible. The whole story is just absolutely insane. But I love it because my friend and I played it together pre-COVID. We played it together, we visited one another. Honestly, it is one that's very near and dear to my heart. So we did an episode for it. I can't remember what number it was, but we did it for season 1. And after we did it, we put it out. The creator, Swery65, I think his name is, Swery65, he actually liked the tweet and everything. I doubt he listened to the episode, to be quite honest, but it was that moment I was like, oh my God, he noticed.
Oh God, that's cute. I know that feeling so well.
I mean, there have been a couple of instances where it's been, celebrities that have liked a particular tweet, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm famous now.
I've made it, guys. That's it. I'm retiring, pretty much.
I mean, I can't remember what other ones there were. I mean, there have been a couple. I remember Mark Hamill liked a tweet
Get
once.
out of here. Oh, yeah, I remember that. You're going off.
Yeah, I just remember like, it's Luke Skywalker.
He likes me. He knows me.
Did he follow me after that or like any other tweets? Nope. Neither is obviously forced to do so. No pun intended. But yeah, no, it was still cool. It's still cool getting noticed. I mean, there's been 1 or 2 people. In fact, one that was actually really happy at was when my friend Andrew and I did an episode on Anime Abridged series. We were talking about just a variety of them, and the main ones, of course, were Little Karibo and Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged, Team 4-Star with Dragon Ball Abridged, and Something Witty from the Sword Art Online Abridged series. And I remember tagging them, and the only person that actually liked it and commented underneath it was Something Witty Entertainment, which I thought was so cool. And I can't remember what it was I said on the tweet, but they got back to me and said something like, jokingly, they said, oh, you just like Asina's voice actress because she's Scottish. And I'm sitting there going,
one of you.
No, she's not Scottish. And then I looked it up and I'm like, oh my God. So I couldn't believe it.
It's amazing, dude. That is amazing. I remember you telling me that. I was like, what? Okay.
I have to admit, there's been some amazing moments. I mean, the only other one I can think of, and it's not as grand scale, but I remember there was a YouTuber, and ironically enough, the day of recording this episode, my episode with this YouTuber just hit 100 plays, and it was an interview with someone called Mer Keke, who's a UK-based streamer, and she does some absolutely incredible video essays on games, TV series, that kind of thing. And I remember seeing her follow count and everything, and as stupid as it sounds, because she's a lovely person, but I kept thinking, oh, this person is way too big to want to deal with a podcast my size and everything. But I just shot my shot with a lot of them, and most of the time, a lot of them, as I was saying before, they don't get back to you, or they just say, no, I'm not interested, and that is 100% perfectly fine, no problem at all. But when she came back and she was like, oh yeah, sure, I love podcasts, I'd love to come on, I was like, wait, what?
You're like, you didn't say no? Oh,
I was like, I didn't prepare this far.
I didn't think I'd get this far. Pretty much.
I didn't think this far ahead. Would I say? I'm ready to type up the thanks for your time email, and I'm like, oh, okay. Honestly, it's fantastic. See when you get a response like that, and it's a great episode. But yeah, no, I always love that when you get recognition from the people that you're critiquing, things that they've either created, things they've acted in, they've voiced in, and so on and so forth. There may be one or two people that I'm trying to get on, and I'm like, oh, we're just waiting for the stars to align before I can confirm it. But would be absolutely awesome if they came on. The big one I remember from Mass Effect month, my friends kept saying, oh, do you know who you should ask? You should ask that Mark Meir and Jennifer Hale, because they're the main voices, of course, for male and female Shepherd. And I'm like, I am not at that level yet. I mean, again, this goes back to the whole thing you were talking about of you have to put yourself out there. And this is something that, and again, Martin, if you've stuck around for this long episode, my friend Martin McAllister, who is an amazing Scottish wrestler, and that is always his advice. He always says, that you have to put yourself out there. You have to take those chances, because, I mean, the worst thing they can say is no.
Or they don't say anything to you. And I'm like, okay.
And that's the thing, though. If they say no, you just move on, rather than certain people who just say, oh, why did they say
yes? I'm mad, and then do something about it on the internet. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. You just have to keep going with it. And
that's what you got to do.
Exactly. You don't know where it's going to land you, really. And yeah, honestly, it's going to be fantastic, especially for yourself, though, because, I mean, I've seen and again, I mean this in the least creepy way possible. I don't mean to be like a Sith Lord in the background with the cloak being like, I'll watch your progress with great curiosity.
Are you Palpatine?
Yeah. Blowfish, I've watched your progress with great curiosity.
Something like that. Good.
Have you ever heard the tragedy of Darth Satsu the Wise?
Now we need to make that a fan art, just like the red panda talking to the blowfish.
The blowfish is just like, what the hell are you saying?
That needs to happen. That has to be the fan art for this now. That's the one. Just do it.
From a certain point of view.
I am the Senate.
So anyway, if you want to listen to our full dub of Revenge of the Sith, you can check us out on Patreon. No, I mean, that would be cool, but no.
I mean, like, whenever it gets to the point where I have to do Darth Vader, I'm just going to pitch my voice so low and make it sound super robotic. Rest in peace, James Earl Jones, by the way. Such a good voice actor.
But I mean, in all seriousness, and I feel as if this is the perfect note to end the episode on, but honestly, I've seen you start out as a Twitch streamer. You began with various visual novels, as you were saying. Double with them, fantastic work. And then it was clear from the offset, obviously, that you were just so passionate about this particular field that you wanted to be a voice actor, and you've only just gotten better.
Thanks, man.
Like, I'm not just saying that because your PayPal donations just cleared.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, that explains the phone notification. Got it.
But in all seriousness, you've gotten better over the years. Not that you were bad to begin with, but you have become more comfortable in it. And every time I drop into your streams, you're having so much fun with that as well. It's honestly such a delight to see. And when you messaged about your Fortnite cameo and everything, and you were doing stuff for Genshin and whatnot, I was like, oh my god, you are absolutely killing it here. So I genuinely genuinely, I cannot wait to see what you do in the future.
Thanks, dude. Seriously, I just got to keep going up from here, man. I just got to build that momentum. And it was just so funny getting into that Genshin audiobook just because my girlfriend was over at the time and I got an email for them. And I'm like thinking, it's probably them saying, hey, you were good, but sorry. And it said, hey, we'd like to offer you a position in this audiobook. And I'm like, I beg your pardon? I was letting me, and I'm like, hey. And I got my girlfriend to read it. And I'm like, is this real, sweetie? And she's like, it is. It's real. And her and I like got like so hype, you know what I mean? Because her and I are fans of Genshin. That's the thing, right? So, but anyway, thank you again, dude, for having me on. I'm so glad we finally got to do this.
Honestly, it's been such a pleasure having you on. And again, on the nearly fourth, I mean, give a day or two, the 4th anniversary since the very first streamer spotlight that I ever did. And it was, of course, with your amazing self.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you for coming on for that, especially. And if you are morbidly curious at home and you want to hear the difference between that interview and this interview, please feel free to compare and contrast, because you'll probably listen to me going, my God, he was bad.
I really want to see that too. I was like, now I really want to do this now.
I mean, that might be a good stream idea, to be honest.
Yeah, it would be a fun little collab. Be like, if you got him, and it's like, yo, Satsu, let's listen to us, and be like, oh God.
We could listen to the JoJo episodes like,
I would be like, dear God, we were just all over the place, you know?
After season 1, definitely the podcast got a lot more structured. I knew what I was doing. I mean, it was only 50 episodes, but still.
50 episodes later.
Yeah, it's actually amazing how it went on for so long. And then, of course, the only reason we do 50 episodes a season is because my friends couldn't commit to doing the live shows. And they was like, oh, well, we could either do it off stream or we're going to have to move the days around. So I was like, you know what, this is probably like a very natural stopping point for the podcast, at least for season 1. And then we can come back next year better, stronger. Or not next year. I think it was like a couple of days later. We're like, okay, yeah, let's record for that.
Fair.
But no, it's been an absolutely amazing experience. And yeah, honestly, it's been amazing getting to know you over the years as well.
Dude, likewise, you as well, man.
Because without podcasting, without streaming, I definitely never would have met amazing people such as yourself. So once again, Blowfish, thank you so much for coming on tonight and talking about all things VA work, streaming, and general content creation.
Of course, man. And like, if you ever want me on again, I will make time for you, like seriously speaking.
No, you're always welcome.
Thank you.
I don't even know what to call it, and I don't actually have physical cards, but whatever the podcast equivalent is of, like a gold card, where it's like anytime you want to come on an episode or you have an idea.
It's like a get out of jail free card, but for this podcast.
No, like more not sinister. More like, if you ever want to do an episode, then you're more than welcome to come back. Oh, of course, anytime.
All right. Gotcha.
You've got the loyalty card. That's what I mean.
There. Loyalty card. Oh, okay. All right. I mean, I think I need to pay you through PayPal as well for that. Give me 1 sec.
Yeah. So before we wrap up and I check the payments gone through, where can these lovely listeners at home find your content?
Awesome. Yeah, you guys could find me on twitch.tv/BlowfishmanTV, all one word, by the way, no underscores or numbers or dashes. We're mainly sticking to a streaming schedule of Mondays and Fridays at around, for all the European folks, 7 p.m. your time. I usually go up until about 10 p.m. your time, or sometimes if I'm close to finishing a game or if I'm really enjoying it, I'll go out for another hour, maybe 11 p.m. Sometimes I do stream on Wednesdays. I decided to make Wednesdays a bit more of a flexibility day just because I'm more focused on voice acting stuff and putting more auditions out there. So if I feel like jumping on, I'll jump on. I think that's the equivalent of 2 a.m. your guys' time, which is crazy. But yeah, for all those American listeners or anyone in the North American time zones, EST mainly, it's 2 p.m. for both Mondays and Fridays, and Wednesdays 9 p.m. And of course, I have a YouTube, Twitter, what have you, all under the same name, BlowfishmanTV, TikTok, Instagram if you want to get to know me personally. I just mainly send very cute reels to my girlfriend over there, if I'll be honest, and post about stuff on my story once in a while. But yeah, you'll mainly find me on Twitch.
If you want to catch more episodes from ourselves, as well as we were saying, the JoJo sub-series, which again was such a good pseudo first sub-series that we started, and we really do need to rewatch part 6 and get that completed for the full set. But if you want to catch more episodes from ourselves as well as our old interview, then you can indeed catch us on our website, chatsunami.com, as well as all Bit Podcast and apps. I also want to thank my very amazing Pandalorian patrons, Robotic Battle Toaster, Sonia, and Ghostie. Thank you so much for supporting the show. But yeah, if you would like early access, exclusive content, Blowfish's impressions of Emperor Palpatine behind a paywall.
Good.
For legal reasons, that's a joke. I just want to specify for the last part, of course. Then you can indeed catch us on our Patreon page, patreon.com/Chatsunami. This podcast, of course, is a proud member of the Podpack Collective. For more information, please check us out at our Twitter/X handle, Podpack Collect. Until next time, thank you all so much for listening. And as I said before, we are a couple of days away from Christmas. So if we don't see you before then, stay safe, stay awesome, and most importantly, have a very Merry Christmas.
Bye.
Welcome to Chatsunami, a variety podcast that discusses topics from gaming and films to anime and general interests.
Previously on Chatsunami, we've analysed what makes a good horror game, conducted a retrospective on Pierce Brosnan's run as James Bond, and listened to us take deep dives into both the Sonic and Halo franchises.
Also, if you're an anime fan, then don't forget to check us out on our sub-series, Chatsunami, where we dive into the world of anime. So far, we've reviewed things like Death Note, Princess Mononoke, and the hit Beyblade series.
If that sounds like your cup of tea, then you can check us out on Spotify, iTunes, and all good podcast apps.
As always, stay safe.
Stay awesome, and most importantly,
Stay hydrated.